So it's her. Mireya's eyes flickered when he heard Mrs. Taylor's words. They all knew that Mr. Taylor already had a daughter from his previous relationship. To be honest, as a small businessman, Mr. Taylor was not worth much in front of the Tarun family, who had dominated the business in different city. But the world was quietly changing decades ago. And the fortune teller told them that there were some people who were born special, and if they could get close to them, it would be very beneficial for them. Mr. Taylor was one of them and also the easiest target in Continent Z. The fortune teller couldn't say much and there were a lot of restrictions. What they said was that Mr. Taylor has a close fate with one of them, so they throw one of their daughters to him. That man was already married at that time, but the marriage relationship was not very good. The two people were in conflict almost every day and the neighbors were also tired with their quarrel. After they have a daughter, the relationship was even worse. At that time, Marin Tarun had already gotten close to Mr. Taylor and the two of them have relationship with each other. So what followed was naturally divorce and remarry for Mr. Taylor. The fortune teller also said a few more names and the Tarun family had tried to get close to them. Unfortunately, only the Magic Association's line was the best, which allowed Mr. Mireya to rise swiftly after the earthquake. They also chose to call Mrs. Taylor and the few other people back to the capital city. There was no need for them to waste their time with unimportant people. She's just a woman who only know how to get close to men. Mrs. Taylor showed her disdain without hesitation. In her eyes, a woman who could only get the favor of men without enough ability was basically useless. There were too many people like that, and in this changed world, what was the use of getting their favor? It's still her ability to be favored by others, Mr. Mireya said as he looked at the helicopter that had flown away thoughtfully. For some reasons, he had the feeling that what the fortune teller meant at that time might have referred to this little girl. She was not born yet when the Tarun family approached the fortune teller, but fate has already prepared it for her. It seems that we need to talk with that woman and figure out more things again. Mireya felt that there were some things that he needed to talk about with the other party. Let's go. Yes. Samuel and Riaz sighed. They're hostile to you, Samuel said thoughtfully as he looked down from the helicopter's window. Both of them were very sensitive to emotional fluctuation. While Mireya was good at hiding his emotion because of his experience as a businessman, Samuel still captured some emotions keenly. This made him realize that the Tarun family might be enemies. Mrs. Taylor is my father's second wife. She was one of the main reasons why their marriage broke down so quickly, Riaz replied in an indifferent tone. There was a hint of coldness in Riaz's eyes when she talked about this matter. As much as she didn't like her biological father for cheating, nor did she like her biological mother who didn't hesitate to abandon her, she hated her stepmother even more than any of them. Because she came from a powerful family, far more powerful than Mr. Taylor, and it was her father who latched onto them. And because they were so powerful, her childhood was miserable when she was staying under them. Riaz hated those days very much. If it was not because she was too weak to live by herself when she was young, she would have long stayed far away from them. Thankfully, Mrs. Taylor didn't like her either and threw her to the other relatives' houses when she was young. Because of this, Riaz didn't have to have too much interaction with Mrs. Taylor. It's fine. Samuel held Riaz's hand gently, and there was a killing intent flashing by his eyes. If you really want to, we can take a detour and deal with them. If you really do that, you will be in an irreconcilable relationship with the Magic Association. Riaz squeezed Samuel's hand back and shook her head. Don't do anything that you will regret, Samuel. I don't need you to make sacrifice just because of my selfish request. It's not selfish, it's what I should do. Samuel looked at Riaz solemnly. If I can't even protect you and make you happy, how could I be worthy of being your boyfriend? Riaz was stunned. She looked at Samuel with surprise visible on her face and then her cheek turned red. This is the first time she was in a relationship and to be honest, she was not entirely sure what to do with it. But Riaz was already used to do many things by herself. Even if she had cooperated with Samuel seamlessly in various battles and so on, especially during the time in the crack, she was still more used to do things on her own for important matters. But hearing Samuel's words, she felt shamefully moved. Don't make trouble. Riaz patted Samuel's hand. but her mouth couldn't help showing shy smile. There are already 5 people who have advanced to rank 7 so far. You know what would happen when they reach a certain number according to the message. The rank 7 magic beasts tied not long ago was indeed both danger and opportunity for them, because the large number of magic beasts was what many of them needed to advance through ranks. While both Ria and Samuel didn't pay close attention to other returnees, they could still sense it through their intuition. The intuition of a rank 7 Runemaster and magic warriors were definitely top-notch. There were already 5 people who have advanced to rank 7. Runemaster Ria is the first, followed by the magic warrior Samuel. The third was Pena the necromancer. The fourth is the warrior Peter. The fifth is Dina the demonic magician. Based on the fact that they managed to obtain a large amount of resources from fighting the rank 7 magic beasts tied, there was a chance that a few others will also advance to rank 7 soon. I know. Samuel sighed and pursed his lips. Perhaps I should have dealt with them from the very beginning. From the very beginning? Ria blinked her eyes and shook her head. I don't want to bear the law's punishment for killing my parents with my own hands. Upon reaching rank 7, they would start to touch upon the laws, and there were also causal laws. Her parents had allowed her to live and took care of her when she was young and knew nothing. Just because of this, Ria could not touch them. It was annoying, especially when her own parents were trying to push her towards her own demise. But she didn't want to dirty her hands with their blood, so she gave them lesson through using the bad luck causal talisman. Yes, this was the talisman she pasted on them in the past. This made them have bad luck if they ever planned to hurt other people or commit serious crimes. Because of this, they have already suffered a few times, and Ria felt oddly satisfied. After all, killing was done one time, but if she let them suffer like this, they would have to work hard to live in this dangerous world. They wouldn't be able to hurt others much either, because if they did, they would be the unlucky one first. It was very suitable for them. I don't mean your biological parents. Samuel shook his head. But she's your adoptive mother, and you won't bear the causal laws if you touch her. Ria was stunned. And then she almost slapped her own forehead for her stupidity. It seemed that she had completely forgotten about this matter because she was so busy fighting those rank 7 magic beasts and hunting for resources for herself. After all, nothing is more important than her own advancement and the people whom she truly cared for. These people couldn't even occupy a third of her mind. Ria completely forgot about them. But she's with the Turin family now, and I can sense those magicians have advanced rapidly. The only question is how. Ria narrowed her eyes. Strictly speaking, the talents within a family would not be so different from each other. It's strange enough that Marin Turin's talent is far worse than Mireia Turin. When she saw the 2 siblings not long ago, Ria had already felt that it was odd. Marin's talent is not good, and this was something that she knew very clearly because she had seen Sierra's talent. Her talent was indeed not good. If she hadn't chosen to become a demonic magician, she might not be able to become a magician for the rest of her life. There are many methods that could change a person's aptitude. Samuel glanced at Ria. Or they might have some special talents that are uncommon and hard to see. Ria's talent was one of them. Just speaking about her talent as a magician and warrior would be more than enough to eliminate her qualification from a long time ago. After all, Ria's talent was really, even if she were to practice for a long time, the result would be minimal, and Ria had long given up on the normal route. Because she knew very well that if she didn't have enough resources, she would never be able to reach her current height. Thankfully, the further improvement from this point would not really dependent on talent anymore. While it would still have some effects, but it was not as much as before. He's a magician, Ria said with a frown. The special profession related to magicians are Runemaster, Alchemist, Weapon Refiners, Demonic Magician, Necromancer, and Soul Magician. Those are all the professions that come to this world. There are still some that hadn't appeared, Samuel reminded calmly. The Half-Magician, the Monster Magic Warrior, the Machinery Warrior. Ria looked at Samuel blankly. It'll be outrageous for those professions to appear in this world, especially because you need help from other profession to follow this path. There were still some special professions in that world related to magicians and warriors, but the 2 of them knew that it was not so easy for them to embark on that path. For example, the Half-Magician. It was called half because the magician would transplant other people's mana heart into his or her own body because they didn't have any talent to become magician. This practice was legal and it had to be done under the agreement of the other party. However, this thing was rare because there were strict requirements for them to be able to transplant the heart. They needed to have blood relationship, hadn't started practicing, having a more powerful mana heart, being of the same gender, having similar body size, and so on. With so many requirements, not many people could become half-magician. And this was usually done by the parents to their own child if they found out that they hadn't practiced in old age but their children's talent was lower than them. For the sake of the children's future, they basically cut off their own paths and let the children be the one to succeed. Of course, there were some illegal practices too. Especially when two siblings who were close to each other found out that the other party's talent was higher than him or her. What awaited them would be nothing more than tragedy. If there were any half-magician in this world, it would be a big problem for them when they wanted to start their training. After all, they had no way to know other people's talent without proper equipment to test it out. If they recklessly tried to transplant their relative's heart with them, there was a chance of rejection, and it was also possible for their ranks to be much lower than how it should be if they had never done such a thing. It was a stupid move. And if they started training before transplanting the heart, it would be impossible because the mana contained inside the mana heart would have belonged to the other party. Forcefully transplanting will only kill them. This method is very dangerous and not very popular in that world for a reason. The other example, the machinery warrior. This was actually the training for disabled people. Because for those who didn't have the talent to become a magician but has talent to become warrior but has some physical defects, they would feel deeply regretful for not having even the chance to start their training paths. In order to make up for their physical defects, Weapon Refiner and Runemaster would cooperate to make some tools suitable for their defect. If they lost an arm, they would give a mechanical arm. If their legs were limp, they would be given a support for their legs. Through training years after year, they would become strong that even if they didn't use these supports, they would not have any trouble to fight against powerful magicians, warriors, and so on. It could be said that this was the path that was specially made for some specific people. Rhea didn't remember when this path was specifically developed, though. After all, she had no time to learn history of various paths that humans created for them to reach the peak. She didn't even remember this path for a brief moment without being reminded by Samuel. "I know." Samuel chuckled as he looked at the scenery outside the window. They were bypassing the ruined lands and there were also other city bases nearby. But the helicopter had no intention to come down. There were many bases in Continent Z, all struggling to survive. 12 returnees along with billions of people all over the green planet. Is it really possible for them to save everyone? His thoughts couldn't help but divert for a moment before he pulled himself back and said, "The Magic Association had existed even before the world changed. They might have found out some methods that could allow them to train even during the time when mana is extremely scarce. Without being a returnee and having an ample knowledge about various advancement paths, those people from the Magic Association were actually doing extremely well." This was something that Samuel also acknowledged. For them to be able to reach this point without relying on the knowledge from the other world but only through the inheritance was amazing. It was just, he couldn't get along with the Magic Association. The Magic Association should have figured out some secret methods that they didn't share with others. Rhea tapped her chin and then said, "But if they really want to promote the demonic magician's path, I'll publish the counterattack rune bands that people could draw in front of their heart for protection." "Counterattack rune bands?" Samuel repeated. "It's a very simple rune that people could draw easily. As long as it's drawn with animal's blood and drawn in front of the organ you want to protect, that specific organ will be protected and those who want to harm you will be counterattacked through the runes. In other words, you will die together with your opponent." Rhea was trying to explain the runes in simple terms so that even ordinary people could understand it. Even though Samuel is a magic warrior, she knew that his knowledge about runes are a bit, well, it's better not to have much expectation. The advantageous is that even rank 1 magicians can draw it as long as they followed the instruction without the need to consume their mana. The drawback is that this is only effective if the one who harmed them is someone of the same ranks as them. Rhea replied helplessly. "Why the rank limitation?" I thought that this kind of limitation would only exist depending on the materials chosen for the runes. That's because this is a special runes that was designed for protection, or more like for revenge. The strength of the runes lies in the fact that it would draw your own life force and your entire mana to launch the counterattack, attacking their opponent on the similar way as they did to you. So if you draw the counterattack rune bands on your chest right outside your mana heart, then if your opponent stabbed through your mana heart, they will be stabbed too, and this will happen from inside, so it was almost unsolvable. Those of higher ranks could resist with magic to a certain degree, but they will still get hurt, Ria replied. And if the one who killed them are Runemaster, then this technique will be utterly useless. Because Runemaster has their own protection around their heart that will stop others from killing them. But Runemaster didn't really have any reason to kill people. It was demonic magicians who loved to take other magicians' heart because they needed it for their own advancement. Ria saw Samuel was contemplating and added a few more words. In fact, it's not always effective because a demonic magician also has their own life-saving methods. You know very well that some demonic magician could have their heart stabbed and didn't die. For this matter, Ria also felt helpless. The demonic magician's means were indeed hard to describe. If Dina were here and heard Ria's words, she will definitely nod in agreement, because she had just been stabbed in her mana heart not long ago. But she was perfectly fine because of the counter methods that she had prepared for herself. I know. Samuel smiled faintly. No profession is stupid, and I myself has my own life-saving methods. He might be an ordinary magic warrior in the face of other people, but Samuel also knew that even the most basic profession has various means to protect their lives. It was just that they were not as fancy as these people from other profession. Just take a look at what Runemaster prepared. Samuel was certain that Ria definitely had more than a dozen's life-saving methods. And considering how Ria has been doing so far, especially with countless types of runes that she made for herself and others, Samuel had the feeling that anyone who wanted to kill Ria will be tortured so badly by her in response. He was there when Ria advanced to rank 7 and naturally saw the complicated runes in the sky, and Samuel was absolutely sure that Ria had even more defenses to protect her life. Because after coming back to life, even he also prepared various means to protect himself. Defense aura? Ria asked when she heard Samuel's words. She still knew some means that the warrior and magic warriors usually used to protect themselves. It was the use of aura. Magicians couldn't use aura, and Ria herself was the same. Even though Ria had basically strengthened her body through the help of runes and so on, but she still couldn't use aura because she didn't practice the warrior's method. Moreover, the harsh training was not something that Ria was willing to spend her time on. If one truly wanted to reach the peak, they needed to specialize in something. Learning everything but only touching the surface wouldn't do them any good. At least, for this matter, it is. Humans' time is limited, and it was impossible for them to become an expert in various fields without spending so much time learning about it. And after not using a certain knowledge for a long time, there was a high chance that they will forget about it. That's one of them. Samuel nodded. Ria chuckled. Let's have a spar after we return. I want to see how I'll fare against you when you've reached rank 7. Now that the two of them had already reached rank 7, they would not die so easily, and many moves could be used to spar. Thinking about it, Ria felt that it would be quite interesting. Samuel arched his eyebrows and also smiled brightly. Sure. Being a magic warrior, Samuel himself also enjoyed the thrill when fighting. Otherwise, he would not have been fighting desperately when they entered the crack and faced those magic beasts. Because ultimately, the path they have chosen would require them to fight on the front line, and neither of the two disliked it. On the contrary, they enjoyed good fights. Of course, not to the extent where they would lose their lives at every turn. The journey to reach the peak would never be easy. There were many obstacles along the way that they had to face. Great, and now? For now, just rest. Samuel stretched his hand and held Ria's hand, feeling the warm and soft feeling. Even though Ria's physical strength was by no means weak, but her body was really soft and comfortable to touch. Samuel held Ria's hand, and his mind wandered around for a moment before focusing on the girl's expression. Ria blinked her eyes and then smiled sweetly. Okay. They have been fighting for a long time in order to deal with the cracks and so on in the past few days. The so-called second stage is a test for the returnees, and the mechanism was also quite simple. As long as they were nearby and hadn't passed the test, they would be chased by countless magic beasts. Over and over again. Perhaps it would even reach the point where the green planet would be destroyed. Whoever set up that damned world fusion and mana integration formation definitely decided to give them hell first. And for some unknown reason, it allowed these rank 7 magic beasts to destroy many things. Even though the strength of these magic beasts had been weakened to a certain degree to accommodate them, it was still very strong. Non-returnees might not be able to face them at all. Ria closed her eyes and leaned against the chair, breathing lightly, and soon fell asleep. One of the greatest advantage for those who have survived the hell in that world was the fact that they could fall asleep quickly when it was needed. After all, they had to replenish their strength as soon as possible, and sleeping is one of the few methods for that. There were still a few hours before they could reach City A. Samuel looked at Ria's face and resisted the urge to touch her cute face. She needed to rest, and he himself was also tired. Fighting so many rank 7 magic beasts while he himself was only at rank 7 was not that easy. The Magic Association claims that they can deal with the rank 7 magic beasts. The higher-up should have received enough benefit for them to agree with this proposition. Thinking about those politicians who did nothing but reap the benefits from the people's hard work, Samuel's eyes flashed with disdain. Some politicians were working well and pushed forward various beneficial policy. But the number of these politicians were among the minority, which made Samuel rather annoyed. But he couldn't really do anything to them. It seems that I need to contact my father to figure out the Magic Association's matter. Samuel planned to discuss with his father about how City A will treat the Magic Association's magicians. Most magicians were innocent, and they were also doing very well when fighting against the magic beasts. Putting aside the embarrassing chants that they used when fighting, at least they were sincerely trying to help and willing to stand on the front line even when many others were cowering and hiding in the back. They were not strong enough to fight against rank 7 magic beasts, but their efforts were commendable. It's really troublesome. In the end, Samuel closed his eyes to rest. Along the way, he sensed the mana fluctuation and guessed that there were other people who have advanced to rank 7 and this unfamiliar mana. The returns were more or less familiar with each other. Moreover, they would be able to see the pattern that formed in the sky when these returnees advanced to rank 7. With each of them having special profession and no overlapping with each other, the pattern from the sky will reveal their identities. For example, the large and beautiful yet mysterious runes from Ria, the sword from Samuel, and then there were also the skull pattern for Pena. These were all very unique and no one would be able to mistake it. Samuel was looking at his phone, which had transmitted message from the official. It was showing the picture of the pattern in the sky on top of the Y continent. A pattern that looked like a circle in the middle and then half a circle below it. Around it was dark smoke or mist that covered up the circle, seemingly coming closer and further away. This was the pattern of the Soul Magician. "So you're really alive, Soul Magician Ami?" Samuel muttered, and his eyes narrowed dangerously. Faking one's death. There was only one type of Soul Magician who would do such an outrageous thing. The Death Soul Magician. The Soul Magician who specialized in looking for the soul of the death and consumed them in order to get stronger. Be it the soul of humans, magic beasts, or even other creatures, they were all nourishment in the eyes of the Soul Magicians. At this moment, Samuel felt that there were so many dangerous and extreme returnees. The people whom he met in the beginning were actually the kindest and the gentlest one among the bunch. City A base, Mr. Jones sighed. While Samuel and Ria were on their way back in the helicopter, City A base was busy cleaning up after fighting against the magic beasts. The matter of the Carson family was a private family matters, and it was not convenient for Mr. Jones to interfere. Even though he was displeased by old Master Carson for kicking Stephen and Sophia out of City A base, he couldn't stop them. Because if he forced them to stay and fought against the Carson family, he was absolutely sure that old Master Carson would start to act up and made a lot of troubles. "Reuben, have you finished settling the people?" Mr. Jones raised his head and saw Reuben walking in with unsteady footsteps. During the magic beast's tide, Reuben was busy fighting against the magic beasts and barely had enough time to rest. Since Reuben was also Riaz's disciple, he was given the task to make a lot of magic scrolls during this period of time. Reuben agreed, because he also knew that his fighting skills were not that exceptionally good and staying behind to help would be much better. But it was really tiring. Yes, sir. Reuben nodded. When his mana ran out, Reuben helped to move the resources and count the remaining supplies. After all, he had been working as Samuel's assistant for a long time, and this small thing was nothing much for him. He couldn't help much after he ran out of mana. Thankfully, the formation was still able to protect them from these magic beasts, and most of them could fight against these magic beasts without being injured in the slightest bit. At most, some people were accidentally tripped or fell because they were in a hurry. These were nothing more than minor injuries not worth mentioning. But still, it was quite tiring to move around. You can put down your work and see your friend off. Samuel will return soon and tell him about what had happened in the past few days. Mr. Jones gave his instruction. Ah! Reuben thought about the mess of the Carson family and nodded helplessly. To be honest, he thought that the Carson family would be willing to wait a while before pushing Stephen and Sophia out. But it turned out that he was thinking too much. These people only wanted these people to leave as soon as possible so that they would not cause any trouble for the Carson family. But Stephen has never coveted anything from the Carson family. Having known Stephen for a long time, Reuben naturally knew these things. So when he heard that the Carson family wanted to kick Stephen out, he only felt that those people were too paranoid and stupid. Stephen was not such a greedy and thankless person. Mr. Jones, how about if City Base is being cleaned up first? Reuben asked with some depression. Thinking that the Carson family was still having power in City Base, Reuben felt a bit annoyed. In the past, there was nothing that they could do when they encountered people whom they disliked. At most, they could try to stay away. But now that the Jones family is the leader of City Base, can't they do something to it? City Base is not commanded by me alone. Mr. Jones shook his head. This is a big city base and I can't just kick people without reason. While he was actually tempted to kick old Master Carson and the rest of the Carson family out of City Base, Mr. Jones also knew that he should not do that. He was still in cooperative agreement with the military and the officials. But it seemed that he could try to bring it up. After all, the Jones family seemed to have paid a lot for the sake of City Base. And can I count Riaz's performance as part of the Jones family's contribution? Even if I have no plan to take her credit, it could increase the weight in the eyes of those officials. Mr. Jones felt that it would be good. If he could have more say in front of the officials, it might be possible for the Carson family to be kicked out of City Base. Of course, he would not push them to their deaths. At most, relocation. While Mr. Jones didn't like the Carson family, they still have a lot of family members in power in various areas. He had to say that old Master Carson truly had a way in controlling his descendants, making them loyal to him and willing to follow his order even though they were already adults and were stronger than him. As for what the education they received, Mr. Jones wanted to say that he didn't need to know. He could already guess that it was definitely far from good and those people might have suffered a lot when they were young. The Carson family has always been united for the sake of the family, and people like Stephen and Sophia, who could have a clean break with them, was even more rarer. Mr. Jones even suspected that they might have been affected by his own son. After all, Samuel is a very headstrong boy when he was young and often made trouble here and there. Well, he was still relatively reliable later on. No matter what, it was good for Stephen to be able to make his own decision. Oh! Reuben sounded disappointed. Mr. Jones chuckled when he saw Reuben's expression. I'll let Samuel try to speak with them. He should be able to convince them more. If Samuel were to know that Stephen was kicked out of City Base, that man will definitely be angry, right? Thinking about it, Mr. Jones shook his head helplessly. Well, it was good that Samuel was not here when Stephen confronted old Master Carson, or he might have long taken out his sword impulsively. Samuel is a very good man in Mr. Jones' opinion, but he's still young and impulsive. Sometimes, his actions were more based on his emotions than his rationality. Though Mr. Jones didn't mind that much because it was good for him to depend on his emotion occasionally. Being too indifferent wouldn't do him any good at all. After all, humans have emotions and desire. If they had to completely suppress their entire emotions and desire, what was the point of living? Then, they would look no different from robots. It was not something that Mr. Jones wanted from his children. "Thank you, Mr. Jones." Reuben smiled brightly when he heard that. If Samuel is here, the Carson family would not have been able to kick Stephen and Sophia so easily from Cydia Base. Though, he had the feeling that Stephen and Sophia would not want to trouble them and would still make the decision to leave. After all, Cydia Base is not the only base around in the whole world. They might have other chances when they travel to other bases instead of staying here and being protected all the way for their growth. Each of them is an individual person and they have their own aspiration in life. He couldn't possibly force his view upon others. "You can go now." "Yes, sir." Mr. Jones shook his head and watched as Reuben left. He looked at the report that his men made about the Magic Association and frowned. The magicians from the Magic Association helped them when they were facing the magic beasts, but not all of them were willing to do that. The higher-ups from the Magic Association seemed to be taking advantage of this matter and put pressure on them. Cydia Base has been refusing to cooperate with the magicians from the Magic Association. While they didn't ban the magicians from the Magic Association from coming to Cydia Base, Mr. Jones refused further cooperation that will require the magicians from the Magic Association to stay in Cydia Base. He didn't like them. Samuel didn't like them either. Considering that Samuel refused vehemently to let these magicians from the Magic Association building a branch headquarter or something like that in Cydia Base, they hadn't made a move so far. Anyway, the other city bases were also good for them to settle down. There were only so many magicians from the Magic Association. It was basically impossible for them to make trouble all the time. But now, it's really troublesome to have them watching us all the time. Mr. Jones sighed. He felt that as long as the magicians from the Magic Association were not banned from Cydia Base, they would never stop trying to make their branch headquarter here. And the power held by these magicians from the Magic Association were not that high. At least for now. But with the advancement of many people, it's impossible to completely ban the magicians from the Magic Association. Mr. Jones sighed. The only good thing is that the officials also published some basic methods for them to become a magician without becoming a magicians from the Magic Association. The problem is that they would not post any meditation method above rank 2. It seemed that the officials were trying to control the strength of the people outside. If they didn't join any forces, they wouldn't be able to practice. The world is already like this, and they're still thinking of various benefits. Mr. Jones was tired and silently took his phone. He wanted to make a call and see if they were willing to make the people stronger again. Because if there were more magic beasts coming, it would be impossible for the magicians from the Magic Association and the officials to handle them on their own. There were also people from the military and the Martial Arts Association, but their number was still limited. Resources, time, and many others were severely lacking, making it hard for them to face the magic beasts without the returnees' help. "Sir, this is the situation in Continent Y." Before Mr. Jones could make the call, someone gave report about what happened in Continent Y. "What is it?" "There's a new pattern in the sky, and the returnees have all confirmed that it's the Soul Magician." "Soul Magician?" Hearing this, Mr. Jones stood up and quickly took a look at the picture presented to him. Everyone knew that the Soul Magician who appeared in Continent Y had already sacrificed herself to protect the people from the magic beast's tide a long time ago. This case made some people soften towards the returnee. After all, when the matter of returnees spread, there were actually a lot of people who hated them and felt that it was unfair. Why does these people could have the chance to enter a completely different world and experience so many things, which allowed them to be far ahead from others? Their resentment was extremely strong that it was hard to convince them. If it was not because of the magic beast's tide and the fact that the officials and the people who governed the bases were much stronger than them, it was estimated that they would have long started a riot. It was a mess. But after the fact that a returnee died to protect the people, they somehow calmed down. This piece of news seemed to tell them that even if these returnees were given the chance to be ahead of them, they were not invincible and could still die. Moreover, these people seemed to be given the task to protect the ordinary people. Just thinking about it made them have some aversion towards having this kind of ability. because they didn't want to be pushed to the front line and being used as a shield by others. Not everyone has such self-sacrificing spirit. In this way, the riot was curbed down in its infancy and people were more focused on trying to survive and live their lives. After more than a year of relatively comfortable life, they seemed to have started to have some other ideas again, which made Mr. Jones disgusted. The people who wanted to make trouble in City A base were scared off by Samuel's action. But what about other bases? There were not many people with such deterrent power like Samuel over there. If they failed to control these people, what awaited them would be nothing more than destruction, or even more chaos. He didn't know what happened on their side because the news didn't travel that far. Even if he were to know what happened on the border, can he send people to help? It was too far away at that time. Later on, various means from the returnees were spread out, making their lives better and better. They no longer feared the magic beasts outside and instead treated it as prey for them to train and also get stronger. This cycle was originally good. But it seemed that their lives got better too quickly that some people started to feel restless. Mr. Jones has been thinking about this problem lately. After all, some decision couldn't be made arbitrarily but still needed to be discussed with others before being implemented. But the magic beasts tide happened. So everything they planned had to be postponed no matter whether they wanted to or not. This magic beast's tide could be said to be both blessing and disaster. Many bases were destroyed in Continent Y, but Continent Z was relatively well because their powerful returnees were willing to fight on the front line, holding onto their weapon and used their own bodies to block these magic beasts' advancement. Mr. Jones didn't know how they did it or what price they had to pay, but he knew that it was not easy. These magic beasts were not weak, and he knew that many of them were rank 7 magic beasts. Considering that most returnees were only at rank 6 and only some of them had reached rank 7, they were basically fighting across ranks. And the rank between rank 6 and rank 7 was simply too big, could not be crossed so easily. For those who had already reached rank 7, it was said that the number of magic beasts they had to face was several times over others. Mr. Jones felt heartache for his son and future daughter-in-law. But he couldn't do anything. He could only stay in City A base and watched over the people defend the base while activating the formation that Ria left behind. In such a short period of time, this formation had already been activated twice, and this made Mr. Jones felt rather helpless. There were too many magic beasts tide happening. It was truly frustrating. The good thing was the fact that these returnees reached rank 7 one after another. They seemed to have been stimulated by something, and various pattern appeared in the sky, telling the entire world about their appearance. Mr. Jones thought that things would be better. But this soul magician, she has been faking her death for such a long time, and the Continent Y never noticed anything? Samuel asked with a frown. He didn't know the detail of Ami the soul magician. After all, he was in Continent Z and only heard bits and pieces about what happened in Continent Y. But for her to be able to fake her death for such a long time, he was sure that it was not for some kind of righteous intention. The official said that they didn't have enough knowledge and ability to detect a soul magician. The subordinate felt embarrassed when he said this. Continent Y was also caught off guard by the fact that Ami the soul magician was still alive. Right now, they were already rushing to clean up the mess that she created during this period of time in Continent Y. I'm amazed that they didn't even know about this matter. Mr. Jones was really speechless. But they couldn't really do anything about it. The fact that the soul magician is still alive will definitely spread far and wide. But since she's already a rank 7 soul magician, there was not much that they could do. Mr. Jones remembered that his own son told him that once they advanced to rank 7, there will be many things changed. One of them was the fact that it would get harder and harder to kill them. Their abilities alone were more than enough to make many people felt the hardship in killing them. Various trump cards were hidden secretly, and they would be able to escape death even after suffering fatal wounds. Each and every single one of these returnees were very troublesome to deal with. Making them enemies were not something that the people in the Green Planet ever wanted. But it seemed that living in harmony all the time was nothing more than a pipe dream based on this development. Sir, leave it be and let the report stay here. Mr. Jones couldn't really do anything to that soul magician, so he planned to talk with his son later. Besides, their first priority should be to focus on the 5 cracks in Continent Z. While they knew that these cracks now represented the returnees in Continent Z, only 2 of them were near City A base and both has been sealed by Ria. One of them was close to City J where Dina was standing guard. Another one was handed over to the Martial Arts Association. And the last one, he had just received report that the Magic Association wanted to claim that crack for themselves. Mr. Jones felt that they should have other plans when they took the crack for themselves, but he couldn't really do anything but accept it. After all, he had no right to refuse. And that crack was so far away that he didn't have the time and energy to care. City A base, Arnold and Amelia's side. Bang! Considering that both Arnold and Amelia were relatively strong and had reached rank 5, the 2 of them naturally fought on the front line along with the soldiers. These soldiers were specifically trained and received more resources, all for the sake of them stepping forward when it was really necessary. There were also many other magicians, magic warriors, and even warriors who participated in the battle. The existence of the formation allowed them to go out and fight without much worry about their defense. Because all they needed to do is to make sure that the ammunition was enough. Fire, fire, and fire. That was all they needed to do. After they had exhausted their mana, their friends would replace them, and this continued until all of the magic beasts were eliminated. The number of ordinary people and soldiers were still considerable in City A base. But it's a bit too safe. Arnold looked at the way these people attack recklessly and frowned. The existence of the formation that Ria made will slowly make these people have dependence on it. In this case, it was indeed fine for them to use it because there were some powerful magic beasts mixed in. And both Samuel and Ria were busy with other things. But if they continued to be like this, they wouldn't be able to fight when the formation was not activated, and this is not a good thing for the future of the base's development. Ha! Amelia was confused when she saw Arnold writing a report in his phone. What are you doing? Making reports so that these soldiers and people with relatively higher level to go out and train more. There are already mission to kill the magic beasts, and I suggest that the number of contribution points for other jobs can be appropriately reduced. Otherwise, I feel that they will never grow up. Arnold's expression was solemn. He used to be a mercenary and fought at the border. Every single day was filled with danger, but it was also what allowed him to grow up quickly and become strong. Because he knew that if he was not careful enough, what awaited him would be a bullet lodged straight into his head. Arnold definitely didn't want to die, so he forced himself to train hard. Everyone in City A base used to do the same and train themselves before they knew the existence of the Runemaster and so on. Because they knew that the runes that existed were only used to help their lives a little bit and to make some life-saving talisman or magic scrolls. But after using the large formation to block the magic beasts and repeating it again this time, Arnold realized that these people had slowly put down their caution and were only busy using up their magic skills like spamming RPG game. It was a bit unsightly. While it was fine for this battle, but if they continued with this mentality for the next battle, what awaited them would be nothing more than their own demise. Arnold couldn't bear to see it. Samuel had built this City A base with such difficulty that Arnold couldn't accept it if the people in this base were squandering his effort with such a half-baked method. So he felt that City A base needed a reform. And with so many magic beasts outside, who would be afraid that there wouldn't be enough supplies to stimulate them? Farming had just succeeded not long ago, and they were already processing a lot of grains to stock up. I never know you're so dedicated towards management before, Brother Arnold. Amelia looked at her boyfriend in astonishment. After all, she had never seen him like this. Not really. I don't have any detailed plan, and I plan to let Ruben be the one to make it. Anyway, he's proficient in it. Amelia? Poor Ruben. If Ruben were to know what these two were thinking, he will definitely scold them. What a good friend they were. Thankfully, Ruben was not there to listen to Arnold and Amelia's conversation, or he will be pissed off by these two. He supported their relationship secretly on their back, but when there were any problem, their first thought was to let him work for them. TSK. He didn't want to acknowledge this friend. Well, I'll try to talk to my brother too, Amelia added with some difficulty. She had already troubled Ruben a lot when they were staying in City I back then. After all, most of them were people who didn't have much talent in management and were too lazy to talk with the officials there. Those people talked one word but meaning something else, which made people feel dizzy just listening to it. So they handed it all over to Reuben, who was proficient in it. Reuben had already scolded them a lot for being a bad friend and then tricked them back. Well, their days in city I could be considered to be quite lively. Anyway, Amelia felt a bit guilty if she continued to use Reuben like this. So she will also ask her brother for his opinion and help. That's a good idea. Arnold nodded in agreement. It would not be good to bother Samuel all the time, but this kind of things couldn't be hidden from him. And it would be easier to go through Samuel if they really wanted to make some changes in Cydia Base. No matter what, Cydia Base is still their home and they didn't want anything bad to happen to it. Samuel's authority will allow him to make some decision for the sake of Cydia Base. That alone was more than enough for them. How about if we also lead people out? Amelia suggested. She felt reassured with the formation that Ria made in Cydia Base, but she also wanted to fight more to gain more experience. After all, if she continued to stay here, she would never be able to be strong and would probably end up being protected by others all the time. I can apply for it. Arnold looked at Amelia dotingly and then asked, "When do you like fighting so much?" He remembered how lazy Amelia is in the past. No matter how much Samuel pushed Amelia and Sean to practice, these two people would figure out various methods to reject and slipped away as much as possible. And during the time of her cousin's incident happened, Amelia might be stimulated and started practicing more, but she was ordered not to overdo it, because if she forced herself too much, the effect would only be counterproductive. In this way, Amelia's training started to be more organized and no longer as desperate as she used to be. There were also times when Amelia still relaxed a bit after training, because it was really hard for Amelia to truly focus on training and some of her old habit remained. After all, people couldn't really change overnight. She had many things that she couldn't do and Amelia didn't force herself to the dead end, because she still has her family members who cared greatly for her. Even if it was only for them, she couldn't possibly let herself fall sick or get worse. No, I don't like it, but I know that I can improve faster when I'm fighting against a matched opponent, Amelia replied. She thought of her friend and there was a faint smile on the corner of her lips. Ria said that she's jealous of my physique because she couldn't do the same. Ria would always feel a sense of disconnection in the beginning and it took her a long time to adapt. People's talent was indeed different and Ria's talent for physical training was indeed not very good. This might be related to her own constitution. Because of this, Ria vehemently refused when she was asked to become a warrior. Not to mention, her own personality was actually also a bit lazy and not suitable to the intense training that warrior has. But studying for runes were not that much better in Amelia's opinion. It was still memorization of so many things that was more than enough to make her feel dizzy. At least, Amelia felt that she will definitely suffer so much if she had to learn to become a rune master like Ria. She didn't want to be forced to learn so many runes and possibly become a rune master like the other party. There was truly no need. It was too difficult. I know. Arnold nodded. He had heard from Samuel that Amelia's physique was indeed a bit special. Many other people would be jealous if they knew about it. Then again, the three siblings were not that bad in their respective talents. They have things that they were good at and things that they were bad at, similar yet different. As the two of them walked out of the resting area, they saw some people talking with each other. Are you sure that it's the Carson family? Yes. It's so rare to see members of the Carson family contradict each other. They have always been known for their harmony and the fact that every member are extremely strong and good. What happened to cause them to fight in public? It's not a fight, just an argument. It's still rare. Someone from the younger generation seems to be kicked out of the Carson family, and they're ordered to leave Cydia Base. The Carson family seems to be quite ruthless and cruel in their practice. Huh? Leave Cydia Base? Where can they go with so many magic beasts out there? Beats me. Do you know who it is? How could I know who it is from the Carson family? But I think that his name seems to be Stephen. He's with a young woman who seems to be his sister. Arnold and Amelia stopped in their tracks. Their expression turned ugly as they heard this conversation. Arnold, do you think it's... Amelia's expression was not very good when she thought about Stephen and Sophia. The relationship between the sibling and the Carson family has been filled with thorns and conflicts. The two parties seemed to agree to disagree, and there were times when Stephen confronted them directly. Amelia even remembered that Stephen even asked Ria for help to learn some magic spells. For that, they joked a bit that Stephen is Ria's second disciple. But in their heart, they understood that the reason why Stephen has to go and find Ria is because he couldn't rely on the Carson family. Otherwise, with how close the Carson family is with the Magic Association, how could it not be possible for them to get magic spells on their own? It would be so easy for them. Yet, the Carson family was unwilling to share it with Stephen and Sophia. Amelia felt a bit sad for her friend at that time, but Sophia looked so calm and composed that Amelia didn't even know what to say. Perhaps from the very beginning, Sophia never have any expectations towards the Carson family. They might be family members, but the way they treated each other was far from it. For Amelia, whose family members loved her so much, it was so incomprehensible, and she couldn't understand it. But she also knew that not all families were like her, so she could be considered lucky. It should be them. Arnold could guess that Stephen couldn't stand the Carson family anymore and decided to have a clean break with the Carson family along with Sophia. If he were to leave the Carson family, he had to bring his sister along with him. And Arnold was sure that Stephen should have made the preparation from a long time ago. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the Carson family to be willing to let him go so easily like this. But it wouldn't have been so easy. Will they be fine? Amelia was so worried about them that she wanted to rush over to the Carson family. And she did just that, if not for Arnold holding her hand. Calm down, they might have gone to the gate by now. If you head to the Carson family's residence, you wouldn't be able to see them. If I can't see them, I can always give a beating to their family members, Amelia said ruthlessly. Anyway, these people dared to bully Sophia. Amelia didn't have any good feelings towards the Carson family's members aside from Stephen and Sophia, so if there was truly a chance for her to beat them up, then she would definitely do it. If you want to beat them up, make sure no one is around first, Arnold said seriously. Ah, if they get a hold of the evidences and then sued you, you'll be in trouble. It's better to put them into a sack when there's no surveillance, Arnold continued. Amelia looked at her boyfriend, who was saying these words seriously, and blinked her eyes in surprise. Then again, laws and orders still existed in City A Base thanks to her father and many other people's management. As her father's daughter, Amelia definitely couldn't make trouble for them. She also didn't want to. So even if she wanted to beat them all up directly without any preparation, Amelia also knew that she should avoid people's eyes when she really wanted to do it. I know. Amelia took a deep breath and looked at Arnold. Let's do it once things have calmed down slightly. She will prepare the biggest sack available and used it to beat up old Master Carson. It wouldn't be that easy. Arnold could guess what the little girl wanted to do and felt somewhat amused. At the same time, he knew that he had to remind the little girl that old Master Carson is not a stupid person. There was no way he would not have bodyguards around him. After all, the Carson family is a big family, and there were many people who had long coveted his power and position. In this world where the laws and orders have been rewritten many times, old Master Carson had to be even more careful. Because even one wrong step might plunge him into the deep abyss where he couldn't see the light anymore. Old Master Carson might be old, but he's not a fool. He will definitely be prepared for people who wanted to sneak attack on him. Teske, how about if I just give him some electrotherapy? Amelia clicked her tongue in annoyance. Since she has lightning element like her older brother, it was quite convenient to attack the magic beasts. Because most of them didn't have any lightning protection and their defense couldn't stop her attack. Only some magic beasts could face her. That might not be a good idea. Why? How many people do you think have lightning element in City A Base? Arnold asked Amelia back with a smile and pulled her towards the gate. If they were to dilly-dallying any longer, Stephen and Sophia might have ended up leaving early, and there would not be any chance for them to say goodbye to him. Though this separation should be temporary. After all, Arnold didn't believe that Stephen had no other plan when he brought Sophia out of City A Base. Lightning element is considered rare, and there are only less than 10 people in the entire City A Base who have this element. Amelia replied almost instinctively. Her father still told her these things because lightning element was considered as a mutation element, so there were not many people who have this element in the first place. But since Samuel is also of lightning element, Amelia has never thought too much about it. How many of those people with lightning element has grudge with old Master Carson? Arnold continued asking calmly. Oh! It was only at this time Amelia understood why Arnold suddenly asked her this question. Because there were not many people of lightning element, and if Amelia made a move against old Master Carson with this element, he will directly know that it was her. Normally speaking, Amelia was not that afraid of others knowing that she made trouble. After all, Amelia had done that for such a long time. As the young miss of the Jones family, there were many people who wanted to take advantage of her and often made trouble for her. Naturally, Amelia would not be the good-tempered young miss, but will fight back. She will make sure they paid for their action, so that they would not dare to slight her in the slightest bit. Do you understand now? Arnold poked Amelia's cheek tenderly. If you provoke the Carson family, they might make trouble with your father. While such trouble is nothing in the eyes of Mr. Jones, but this is not the right time. Not the right time. Amelia glanced outside of the gate where many people were still working to move the magic beast's corpses and pursed her lips. The formation had been deactivated because it cost so much magic cores to activate, and even though City A base is rich, it wouldn't be able to withstand this kind of extravagant consumption. Other city bases didn't have such mechanism like City A base and had to use human lives to block these magic beasts' waves. In a way, City A base is actually very lucky. The existence of two returnees who stayed in the same city was something that many people envied. How many returnees are there in the whole world? In the beginning, not many people could answer this question because the planet was so big and vast. It was impossible for them to find out everything when they were living so far away. But now, they have the answer. It's only 12. And in 3 city bases, 2 returnees lived there and protected the city base. How could they not be jealous? It was estimated that after this magic beast's tide, there will be a lot of troubles awaiting those returnees and the officials, especially Continent Z's official, because there were a total of 5 returnees in Continent Z alone. Moreover, Ruth probably had to be returned to Continent W or they wouldn't be able to handle the magic beasts from the crack that belonged to her. Continent W will no longer tolerate Continent Z holding her back. They needed her. Lending Ria to help them block the crack was only a temporary measure to calm them down because Continent Z couldn't send Ruth back before the situation subsided. But it wouldn't be long before Ruth had to be returned to Continent W. To be honest, Arnold could only get to hear this because of Reuben and Mr. Jones. The 2 people trusted him and allowed him to participate in the meeting to give his opinion. But he felt really uncomfortable, because he could tell that, in the eyes of these officials, these returnees seemed more like an object rather than a person with their own free will. Their life was already arranged by the officials, and it looked as if they couldn't do anything, nor were they allowed to voice out their own opinion. It was really, no matter how uncomfortable he is, Arnold could see that not all returnees have the same status. They have their own way of survival. And Ruth was an ordinary person. She was not like Samuel, who has a powerful family backing him and probably more similar to Ria and Peter. She had no backing. Ria could stay strong on her own because she had the capability to do so. No other returnees would be able to be like her, going around the crack like taking a stroll, and harvested a lot of magic beasts' corpses on her own. It was just like a walk in the park for her. And it was also this qualification that made others not dare to offend her so easily. Her various runes, magic scrolls, and talismans were hard to deal with. They have benefited greatly from her and established a cooperative relationship. Since Ria is also not that greedy of a person, their relationship with the officials were relatively harmonious. But Arnold heard that the officials were resentful because she was too close to Samuel. After all, Samuel was known to be a black-hearted businessman. He had taken a lot of benefits and advantage from many other people during this period of time, earning the profit as a businessman. Peter chose to associate with the Martial Arts Association, which allowed him to have a backing on his own. While he had to show his value to the association for them to provide him with resources, but it was a worthwhile deal for him. After all, what Peter needed the most was a team to support him. Right now, the Martial Arts Association has given him enough, allowing him to walk around Continent Z freely with his team and fought countless magic beasts to his heart content. Free and unrestrained. Even his backing had to consider his strength when dealing with him, thus giving him a certain degree of freedom. Unfortunately, not everyone could be like them, achieving their own freedom. Ruth was one of them. So later on, there would only be one returnee in City J. And from what Arnold had heard, Continent Y's situation was even worse. Those returnees might not even be willing to work for Continent Y anymore. Unfortunately, Arnold didn't know much about it, because Ruben only said that Continent Z's official received Continent Y's distress signal. But since they were also overwhelmed with so many magic beasts, they couldn't exactly respond to them. Samuel and Ria were also busy to deal with the magic beasts from other cracks. They really have no time to deal with other continents' problem. At least, for the time being. Amelia nodded with frown and allowed Arnold to keep pulling her towards the gate. She had heard about her father mentioning this matter before, but she never paid attention too deeply. After all, Amelia was not interested in politics and so on. So while Arnold was quite clear about the situation outside, Amelia only has superficial knowledge. There. Arnold sighed but didn't try to explain to Amelia. He knew that this little girl never had any interest in these things. Otherwise, Mr. Jones would not have passed Amelia directly when he talked about his successor and only talked about between Samuel and Sean. Though, from the way it looked like, neither of these two people wanted to succeed him. For this matter, Arnold felt a bit of pity for Mr. Jones. After all, this meant he had to wait for the next generation. But since they had started practicing and become stronger, their lifespan would naturally increase too. In this way, there would be no problem for Mr. Jones to stay in this position for another 30 years or so. There would be enough time for the next generation to grow up. The premise is that the green planet would still exist and not being destroyed in the middle because of various matters. Sophia. Stephen and Sophia were already standing by the gate. They had conflict with the Carson family early on and then decided to head to the gate early. This was to prevent the Carson family from trying to trip them further. Brother, after this, we'll stay far away from Cydia base? Sophia asked with her voice quivered slightly, trying hard to restrain her uneasiness, because she didn't really want to be separated from her close friends. After the world changed, Sophia has been together with Ria, Amelia, and Ruby. Even though they were not always together, they still spent a long time with each other from time to time. But if she left Cydia base, will she be like Claire, whom hadn't been heard for a long time? The last time they heard from Claire, she only reported that she's safe and that she's living well. They didn't know the rest because the other party didn't say anything to them. Don't worry, I'm sure that you will be able to return to Cydia base soon, Stephen said solemnly. He could guess that based on Samuel and Ria's personality, the two of them might not take this lying down after they heard about it. It was just that he wanted to use this chance to explore the outside world. They have heard many things about what happened in other bases, and Stephen wanted to take a look himself. His sister will follow along so that she could learn more about the outside world. She has been protected too tightly as the young miss of the Carson family. Really? Sophia was pleasantly surprised. It'll only take a few months at most. Stephen made a promise. He also didn't want them to leave that long. Sophia looked at her brother doubtfully, but Stephen didn't explain to his younger sister. There was no need to tell her that it would only take a few months for a powerful family to fall in the hands of Samuel. When that man was serious, he could destroy a business empire even when he didn't have the full control of the Jones family. Now that he was basically the one in charge of Cydia base, Stephen believed that he could do it faster if he wanted to. And even if he didn't want to, Stephen would not say anything and accepted it. After all, Carson family did make contribution and some things were not that easy to solve. Sophia. Hearing the familiar call, Sophia turned her head and was pleasantly surprised to see Amelia and Arnold coming over. Amelia! Tisk! Are you trying to leave without telling anything to us? Amelia asked with annoyed and then hugged Sophia tightly. She spent most of her time during this period of time with Sophia and thinking about their temporary separation soon. She felt really unwilling. If possible, Amelia really wanted to spend more time with Sophia. "Ah, I don't know what to say to you," Sophia said honestly and then added with some embarrassment. "Besides, I'm not entirely sure that I'll leave for long." "Really? That's what my brother told me." Sophia turned to look at Stephen. Arnold had already arrived and he arched his eyebrows. "I didn't expect you to be so capable now, Stephen." "I have made some plans on my own," Stephen admitted calmly and raised his fist forward. "But I wouldn't mind some helpers." Bump! Arnold bumped his fist to Stephen and shook his head. "No way, I don't have that much capability. If you really want someone to help you, you should have waited until he returned." "No, I don't want to make a big scene." Stephen shook his head. "The Magic Association is already on the move and they might want to target City A base too. So you have to be careful." Magic Association? Thinking about the fact that City A base had a bad relationship with the Magic Association, Arnold's expression turned a bit strange and then he said, "I got it." He could guess that the Carson family has some relationship with the Magic Association and Stephen heard about it. But in that case, how troublesome. Internal fighting? How are you going to go? Amelia finally asked another question. "I'm going to use my castle turtle," Sophia replied cheerfully. "Ria is really amazing. She had just selected this magic beast for me, but I can already used it for my escape." Amelia was stunned for a moment and nodded thoughtfully. Even though Sophia looked like an ignorant girl, the two of them knew very well that Ria might have long expected something like this to happen, which was why she quickly prepared the castle turtle for Sophia. In this way, if something happened when she was not present, Sophia would not be so embarrassed and could still respond in time. Ria is really amazing. How did she possibly guess about this? After all, Ria was so busy with various matters that it was impossible to pay attention to their affairs all the time. Yet she seemed to be able to guess that the matter of the Carson family might not end well for Stephen and Sophia, thus allowing them to prepare for a way out in advance. With the castle turtle, it didn't seem to matter where they live now. "Have you prepared enough resources?" Amelia asked another question. The place where they lived is important, but the resources were also important. Moreover, Sophia is a beast tamer, so she would need to spend a lot of resources to nurture her magic beasts to make sure that they could grow stronger. Around City A base, hunting magic beasts would be much safer because the strong magic beasts had been eliminated by Samuel and Ria. But if they were to leave far away, it might be harder for them to get the resources they needed. "Don't worry. There's more than enough that my brother prepared for me," Sophia replied with a grin. Stephen is far more comprehensive and attentive than her, so he had already prepared everything. While Sophia was actually still hesitant whether to leave or not, Stephen had already prepared everything the two of them might need. While Stephen would not voluntarily leave City A base, he set the conditions so that when old Master Carson wanted to force them to do something, he was ready. He wouldn't take the initiative, he would not let himself be taken advantage of. "That's great." Amelia breathed a sigh of relief. She looked at Sophia with a complicated look and then started to exhort the other party, making sure that she would pay attention to her well-being when they were outside. Sophia listened patiently. Even if she knew these things by heart, it was Amelia's care that made her moved, and there was also a bitter smile on her lips. She really didn't want to make the other party worry. "It seems that you have prepared everything." Arnold patted Stephen's shoulder and sighed. "Thanks to the space storage scrolls," Stephen admitted calmly. In his heart, he was extremely thankful for Ria to spread out the space storage scroll everywhere, improving many people's living condition. Even though the poor still couldn't really afford the space storage scroll, they didn't really need it in the first place. After all, a backpack would be enough for them. But those who were more well-off could still spare their contribution points to buy space storage scroll, allowing them to travel far without the need to worry. Moreover, it's easier to save things through the space storage scrolls than to store them at home. The price for the first-rank space storage scroll had dropped, and the second-rank space storage scroll is more popular now. Arnold sighed when he thought about it. The officials definitely made a lot of money from these space storage scrolls. Just thinking about the fact that Ria could monopolize everything made his scalp numb. Because the need for space storage scroll has gotten more and more massive as time increased. Thankfully, Rhea taught the methods to make these space storage scrolls so other Runemasters could learn it. But the rank 2 space storage scrolls were still very limited. Only a few people could possibly learn it during this period of time. Do you want a few more? Arnold asked. He still has some spare space storage scrolls. No need. I bought enough for us. Stephen shook his head. And don't you need to save up for your marriage? Getting into the Jones family wouldn't be so easy. Arnold. He rolled his eyes at his bad friend and clicked his tongue. I'll prepare my own marriage funds myself. You don't have to worry so much about me. It's better to worry about whether you will survive out there or not. You're a magician and she's a beast master, so you need someone to help you block the attack. Her magic beasts are relatively strong, and in the worst-case scenario, we'll stay inside the castle turtle, Stephen explained. How about weapon? The mana gun is more popular, but it's restricted to be used within the military, so I can't get it. One had to say that the weapon enthusiast in the military was much stronger than Rhea. After all, she could only modify ordinary weapon, but once she gave the general idea and the sample to them, they had created several variations. By now, there were many weapons that used various magic cores as their energy, saving them from having to produce bullets and so on. However, it was still not that easy to produce them, and getting magic cores were not that easy. They have to hunt the magic beasts and then made the weapon that could harvest the energy within the core to perfection. So far, the machine they used still has a lot of losses in the conversion. Even when using the runes that Rhea handed over, the progress was not that fast. It would still take some time for things to fully improve. I have one, and keep it for yourself. Stephen quickly raised his hand. You have a lot of enemies back in the days, and if they come here to make trouble with you, you need to be prepared. They wouldn't be able to beat me now. Arnold scowled, but he still kept the weapon away. Anyway, he knew Stephen's temperament best. Since the other party said that he didn't need it, then he really didn't need one. Do you really not want to wait until those two returns? Arnold pointed in the direction of Continent Z's capital city. They would be quite angry if they found out that you have left. I know, but I don't want to stay there any longer. Stephen shook his head when he thought about old Master Carson. The Carson family might look glorious on the surface, but they were actually full of rotten thoughts. The unity of the family was built on the fact that old Master Carson was holding each and every single one of them on the leash. Their weaknesses were firmly held in old Master Carson's hand. And over time, they got used to it and will listen to his words unconditionally without even considering whether it was right or wrong. It was such environment that caused his father to be unable to fight back and finally stayed in the Carson family. He would not blame his father, but he couldn't be like his father either. Stephen still wanted to see the world outside. He also wanted to become strong, and for this, he didn't mind doing some things that many other people might never dare to do in their entire life. It was for this reason that Stephen was very confident in coming out of Cydia base. All right, do you have any specific destination you want to go? Arnold asked. I'm going to try to see if I can find our mother's parents, Stephen replied as he looked at Amelia and Sophia, who were still on the side. It seemed that Amelia has a lot to say to Sophia, so he continued, We've been separated for a long time and I want to see if they're doing fine. Their mother died a long time ago. In a way, it was actually a blessing because they didn't have to face this cruel world and see the cruelty of the Carson family. Stephen knew how much his mother cared for his father, but he was really too weak. Without the Carson family, it was impossible for him to stand on his own, and it was also because of this that their family was like this. Perhaps it was his luck to be able to stay outside the Carson family and was not influenced as much. Ah! Arnold nodded. Do you want to find your family? Stephen suddenly asked. From what he knew, Arnold's brother might be alive. After all, Arnold's meeting with Ur in Cydia base was not exactly a secret. As for Arnold's parents, Stephen highly doubted that Arnold would be willing to see them even if they were still alive, because it was those parents who pushed their own children to become mercenary to be able to support themselves. There was no need to mention just how bad it is for them to be pushed to the border when they were still young. Even though we're brothers, we hadn't seen each other for a long time after our parents' separation. Arnold shook his head. The family was broken up and there was really no reason for them to see each other. In fact, they did contact each other for a while when they were young, but later on, their parents made them unable to contact each other. Back then, Arnold didn't tell Amelia the details, but in truth, their parents didn't simply ignore the two siblings. They were the ones who made the two of them pick this life path. Because if they were to choose ordinary professions, they would never be able to pay back their parents' debt. I have no idea where he is now, and even before the world changed, he had almost never contacted me, Arnold replied. So if he saw his brother again, the first thing he did would be to beat up that B***starred first. He might be at the border, Stephen speculated, and then patted Arnold's shoulder. Well, if you need help, the others will also be there. Speak for yourself. Ha ha ha. The two of them laughed lightly, and then they saw Reuben rushing over. It seemed that he had finished his work and was now running to see them. Pant pant. So I'm not late. Reuben grinned when he saw the two of them and raised his hand. I know that you will leave right away, Stephen. I'm thinking of doing that, but this man is too fast. Bang. Reuben gave a punch on Arnold's stomach and sneered. If you dare to die out there, I'll make sure to call some magicians from the Magic Association to bombard the place where you die. Stephen, do you want to disgust me even after my death? Eft. On the other hand, Arnold laughed out loud and held his stomach on the side, feeling that Reuben really knew how to liven up the situation. I thought that you have become more stable after learning under Ria and become an honest man. It turns out that I was wrong, Stephen lamented. Those magicians from the Magic Association are hard-working people, Reuben said with a grin. As long as you paid them enough resources, they're still willing to move around as you ordered. After all, many magicians from the Magic Association were actually poor. For them to be able to earn enough food and resources, they were willing to do various odd jobs. Reuben is not poor, as he had been working in City A Base for such a long time. Moreover, the runes he made could be sold for a considerable price, especially since his rank is higher than majority of Runemasters in this world thanks to Ria's teaching. So his contribution points and resources were plentiful. If Reuben really wanted to, he could really made the arrangement to call these magicians from the Magic Association to bombard a place. It was easy. You're really... Stephen looked at his friend speechlessly and then muttered. Then I have to make sure I died later than you, so that you won't have a chance to call those magicians from the Magic Association. You can call them on my burial place too, Reuben added. Stephen, are you not afraid of disgusting yourself to death? Arnold was snickering on the side, trying his best to hold back his laughter. Whenever Reuben came up with some new antics, the others would definitely be made speechless by him. Moreover, this man was shameless enough. Being Ria's student really didn't make you better, Stephen finally said and then promised. Then it's a deal. Reuben grinned and then waved his hand. I have to be a good boy in front of my master, but in front of my friends, why should I hold myself back? He behaved himself around Ria because he wanted his master to teach him more. Moreover, if he dared to make trouble, Ria could easily hand over a stack of books, and he could already imagine how torturous his days would be. Back then, he nearly didn't have any time to sleep at all because Ria shoved a lot of books about magic and runes to him. While they were useful, but she also set a time limit for him. He could only squeeze his time to learn these things, making sure that he learned everything to the fullest. If he couldn't pass Ria's test, he would be punished to learn more. So Reuben had to be a good student. At that time, his mind was filled with countless runes memorization and so on. How could he have time to mess around with the others? He had to rush back and finish his work, making him exhausted every day. In City I Base, he still had some time to make fun of his friends from time to time, but it was only occasionally. Repeat it again, Reuben. Amelia was holding her phone with her eyes shining. She wanted to record it for Ria to hear, letting her know how much of a troublemaker her student actually was. Reuben was stunned and quickly took a step back. When did you finish talking with Sophia? He didn't even notice it. It seemed that he had to increase his own training too in the future, so that he would not be easily ambushed by warriors and magic warriors. After all, as a magician, his skills were still far lower than Ria, and his body was also weaker than other warriors and magic warriors. If they were to sneak attack him, Reuben couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't get hurt. TSK, he had to prepare enough defensive runes next. This was included in the books that Rhea gave to him, but those runes were more complicated, so he hadn't succeeded making the passive activation runes. Ruby is here and talking with Sophia, so I come here, Amelia replied and then shook her phone in front of Ruben. Come on. Say it again. I want to show it to Rhea. No. I have already lost face so many times in front of you because of your devil brother. I won't let you show it in front of Rhea. Hey, come back here. Don't use your runes if you dare, Ruben. I won't listen to you, la la la. Ruben. Seeing the two of them chasing each other like elementary school students, the other two were speechless. Even though Arnold liked to tease Amelia too, he preferred to see her looking shy rather than angry like this. Though seeing her look so lively is still very good. Well, your sister should be ready to go soon. Arnold shook his head, feeling that the heavy atmosphere from before really couldn't be maintained. With Ruben around, it seemed that making sure they were serious all the time would be an impossible feat to achieve. Ah yes. Stephen saw Ruby and Sophia were talking with each other and smiled. We'll return in the future. His words were more like a promise. Arnold only smiled and didn't say anything more. It was enough. I almost missed your departure. At this moment, Ruby was looking at Sophia angrily. She was usually locked up in the laboratory, especially after her research was approved and she could get a place for her own. Her professor was also happy for her, and Ruby sincerely thanked her professor for his selfless cultivation over the years. There were not many people like Professor Brown who was willing to teach his student wholeheartedly without asking for anything in return. Thanks to his teaching and guidance, Ruby was able to succeed in her research. As thanks, she also listed him as the secondary researchers. After all, it was also because of his help that Ruby was able to truly obtain her research result and be valued by many people. She couldn't be an ungrateful person. Recently, she had also achieved some results in her research and planned to show it off in the research conference. If there were no magic beasts tied, it should happen soon, but now it might be postponed a bit. Many bases would be busy because they had to repair their bases and so on. How did you find out that I'm leaving today? Sophia asked guiltily. She didn't tell Ruby about this because she didn't know what to say to her friend when they met. Now that she saw Ruby in front of her, she just felt even more guilty. I took a break and heard about the Carson family's breakup, so I guessed that it might be you and Stephen, Ruby replied. In the Carson family, only Stephen seemed to be willing to go against old Master Carson. The other member of the Carson family was very docile and looked like a lamb ready to be slaughtered. Yet they were still stepping forward towards the guillotine. Ruby really couldn't comprehend these people, and she didn't usually bother with it. As long as it didn't bother her research, why should she pay so much attention to that? She was not so idle. You're right. Sophia looked helpless. Don't worry. I will definitely live well when we're outside. You don't have to worry so much about me and just focus on your research. Seeing the look on Sophia's face, Ruby was silent for a moment. The two of them were roommates back in the university, so they naturally knew each other well. From the moment they basically lived together, they knew the bad habits of the other party and various other details that they might not even tell others. It was also because of this that Ruby knew that Sophia had changed. This girl was the party girls that many people liked back then and only knew how to have fun. Coupled with the backing of the Carson family behind her, Sophia always liked to play around. Ruby even got exasperated whenever she was disturbed in the middle of the night because of Sophia's game and so on. But that girl was now thinking about how to live properly and well. The change of the world had also changed them all. Even though they were all living well under the protection of the powerful returnees and the city bases in overall, it couldn't be denied that they have changed. They were no longer the young and impulsive youths back then. I think I trust Melly more than trusting you, Ruby said solemnly. And you have to remember that the Magic Beasts booklet had to be memorized. They have just increased the number to add the few magic beasts that had only appeared recently. Their names are... Sophia was frozen stiff. Stop. Stop. Ruby, I don't want to hear more lecture. Sophia wailed when she heard the familiar lecture from Ruby. One of the reasons why she didn't like going back to the dormitory in the past was because she really didn't want to be lectured by Ruby. This girl could pull out professional knowledge from who knows where and sprouted it all in front of her methodically all of the sudden. It would make Sophia wonder how Ruby managed her brain to be able to remember so many things like this. At least, she herself would feel overwhelmed. Because you don't usually listen, so I have already recorded everything I want to say and send it to your phone. Ruby looked at Sophia sternly. Remember to listen to it, and I'll also message your brother to remind you. Sophia almost collapsed when she heard this. She stiffly turned to look at her brother and saw him give a wry smile as he was checking his phone. It was obvious that Ruby's message had arrived. Sophia closed her eyes and could only promise, "I'll listen to what you have to say on the way." "Good." Ruby smiled sincerely and then added, "Make sure you live well when you go out there. Even if you're only with your brother, you still have to eat healthily and not play around like you used to be." "Ruby, are you my mother?" Amelia laughed out loud when she saw Sophia finally couldn't handle it anymore. Because Ruby spent most of her time in the laboratory and usually already had her fill of knowledge with her colleagues, she could restrain herself from instructing them solemnly with her usual lectures. But now that Sophia was about to leave City A Base, Ruby would not miss this chance to give the last lecture before they went their separate ways. "We can still chat in the group. The technology made it possible and the researchers have been doing well in this regards," Amelia quickly said when she saw Sophia was glaring at her with resentment. Ahem. No one would withstand Ruby's brutal lecture attack. Not even Ria. Just look at how Ria would also try to change the conversation when Ruby was about to start her lectures mode. Even Claire, who was currently far away from them, would not be able to withstand facing Ruby's fierce lectures. "All right." Ruby could only stop and then looked at the time. "My break time is over. Amelia, don't forget to come to my project's presentation. I'll give you the invitation, and if it's broadcasted live, I'll send you the invitation, Sophia." "Huh? What kind of project?" Sophia was intrigued when she heard Ruby's words. "You will know later." Ruby was tight-lipped about her project due to the confidential document that she had to sign before. TSK. So secretive. Sophia rolled her eyes but didn't ask any further. There were also some projects that her brother couldn't tell her in the past, and Sophia understood that it might involve some other things that was not convenient to tell outsiders. Besides, Sophia usually wouldn't understand anything that Ruby said because many of them were extremely scientific and couldn't be comprehended by normal humans. Well, at least she couldn't understand. The language that Ruby used sounded like a heavenly language in her ears. She could understand each word separately, but when they were combined together, she would feel as if she was listening to a scripture of ancient language. In other words, she understood nothing. "I'll definitely come." Amelia grinned. "If my brother and Ria had time, I'll also invite them along." She couldn't make the promise for Samuel and Ria. Those two people were so busy, and the matter of these magic beasts might cause them to be busier during this period of time. But Amelia could always ask them. "That's good." Ruby smiled. The girls chatted a bit more before Ruby scurried away because she would be late to go back. If she was late, there would be bodyguards hurrying her to go back. "Becoming a scientific researcher didn't seem to be that easy," Sophia said with emotions. Seeing how busy Ruby is and the fact that she had to be accompanied by bodyguards when she came out, she felt that her work shouldn't be so easy. "She likes it," Amelia said with a shrug. Even when they were in the university, Ruby often stayed in the laboratory and asked for permission to do experiments and so on. They already knew about this, and since she's working hard in the field that she liked, everyone supported her silently. "Yes," Sophia chuckled. "It should be the life that Ruby really wanted." "How about yourself?" Thinking that she would have to walk out of City A Base to unknown destination and possibly also face a lot of dangers out there, Sophia felt somewhat at loss for a moment. But the next moment she composed herself. "Take care, Mel. You too, sophomore." The two girls gave a final parting hugs, and then the two siblings left City A Base. Amelia, Ruben, and Arnold were standing beside the gate, watching the two people left amidst the other people who were busy cleaning up the magic beasts. Would they be fine to leave during this period of time? Amelia suddenly asked. "If you're worried about the magic beasts matter, then you don't have to," Ria had already sealed the 2 cracks near City A base, and the number of cracks are limited. From now on, it's impossible for these magic beasts to appear just anywhere all over the green planet, Ruben explained calmly. Huh? Then how can they practice? Amelia was stunned. Even though the magic beasts will not appear again in various areas, those who had appeared before might have already formed their nest. Ruben pursed his lips. Continent Z is really big, and there were many places that the officials couldn't reach. Who knows how many of such nests has been formed all over the world. Various ecosystems related to the magic beasts have been formed, and there were many types of magic beasts living around it. Ruben had learned that the officials planned to send soldiers to survey it some time ago. But with the appearance of the second earthquake and various rank 7 returnees, it seemed that this would be impossible to do. He didn't know whether they would cancel the plan altogether or to do it later on after the returnees have made the arrangement. Anyway, with only 12 cracks all over the world, it should be easier for the officials to handle it now, right? Ruben was not entirely sure. After all, the number of people who managed to survive from the magic beasts were limited, and many of them died in the violent magic beasts tied over and over again. So many of them didn't manage to survive, and the military and officials' control over some areas were a bit weaker. It hadn't improved much because they focused on the nearby areas. Even if there were also military stationed there, the situation was not very optimistic, and magic beasts could grow more rampart. Moreover, Ruben knew very well that the situation in other continents were also not very good right now, especially with so many magic beasts coming. Some returnees even blatantly split up from the officials, tearing off the peaceful facade that they had maintained in the past year or two. It was really... Oh! Amelia nodded absent-mindedly. All right, I have to go back to work. Miss Amelia, please don't stay close to the magicians from the Magic Association for the time being, Ruben reminded. Mr. Jones was dissatisfied with the magicians from the Magic Association because of their higher-ups' behavior. Many magicians from the Magic Association were innocent, but it would be better if they didn't have any emotional entanglement with these people. Huh? I have never been close to them, Amelia said righteously and then frowned. What did they do again? The magicians from the Magic Association were doing their job well not long ago when dealing with the magic beasts. After all, Amelia could still hear their powerful magic spells even from a distance. To be honest, Amelia sometimes wondered if the magic beast's aesthetic matched these magicians from the Magic Association. Otherwise, why are these magic beasts not be disgusted to death first? Isn't it unpleasant to watch the magicians from the Magic Association sang strange tune and then danced around on the battlefield? It's nothing much, Miss Amelia. Don't call me miss. It sounds strange. Ha ha ha. Ruben laughed out loud and ran away while Amelia puffed her cheek in anger. She didn't understand why Ruben was so bad today. He kept on making her really angry. Let's help them to clean up and then took our share of magic beasts, Arnold said, stopping Amelia from sulking more. You're smiling, aren't you? Amelia narrowed her eyes dangerously. How could it be? Arnold refuted, but there was a hint of smile in his eyes when he looked at Amelia in front of him. She's so cute and adorable. How could he not want to treasure and care for her? You're definitely laughing at me. Amelia was annoyed and stormed off to the officers. Humph. She will ignore him for an hour today. Is it a bit too long? Then half an hour. I'll apologize. Then Princess Mel? Arnold asked in gentle and coaxing tone. Seeing his handsome face up close, Amelia puffed her cheek and turned to look at the side while thinking in her mind. 5 minutes would be enough. The red ears made Arnold felt a bit itchy, but they were in public. Putting aside the matter of public decency, Amelia is still angry at him, so he would have to coax her before he could hug the girl. The officer who was in charge of the tally today. Brother, can't you come forward and stop flirting over there? He felt that he was incredibly unlucky. Not only did he have to face strong magic beasts today, he also have to be fed with dog food during his work. It's really unlucky. Samuel and Ria's side. Because of the magic beasts problem, neither Samuel or Ria had heard anything from City A base. After all, they had to focus on their work, and Mr. Jones would not contact either one of the two of them unless it was absolutely necessary. he still has this knowledge. Besides, both of them were currently resting in the helicopter and was waiting for the pilot to bring them back to Cydia base. Ria opened her eyes with a frown, silently sensing the air, and her eyes were a few shades colder. There's another rank 7. The green planet's mana was thinner, and any disturbance, even if it was on the other side of the world, was very obvious for those who have reached rank 7. So when Ria woke up from her meditation and sensed the mana fluctuation, she could more or less guess what had caused it. Should she be glad that it was not a batch of rank 7 magic beasts tied again, or should she be annoyed because someone had faked their own death and causing trouble on the other side of the world? The Soul Magician, Samuel responded. Would you like to contact her? Since she had faked her death so thoroughly and Continent Y is in a mess, I don't think it's a good idea, Ria replied. How do you know Continent Y is in a mess? The mana fluctuation. Ria gazed outside the window and her eyes flickered. For Runemasters, we're extremely sensitive to mana fluctuation, and I can sense the movement of those rank 7 magic beasts. A single magic beast would mean nothing but a large number of them. It's a bit too obvious. Samuel nodded and then frowned. Almost everyone are rushing to reach rank 7. At this point, the first requirement has been fulfilled. It wouldn't be opened so easily. Ria shook her head. We still need to gather in that island first. The 12th returnee has been found. Yes, I received the information while you're resting. Samuel also rested, but he had more contact with the officials and other people, so when he was also meditating, they sent a message to his phone. In this way, he could see the information right after he finished his meditation. Who? Leon, a villager from Continent X. He has been living in a small village and hide his presence until the second earthquake. By now, Continent X is asking for help because he almost couldn't hold on. Samuel replied with a hint of pity. Previously, there was only one returnee from Continent X, which is Pena. Knowing that this man is a necromancer, Samuel didn't have a good impression of the other party, but this name was also unfamiliar to him. Many people in that world was more well known with their title instead of their real name, especially those who came from unknown background or have some reasons why they wanted to hide their identity. Samuel himself had no such interest and would rather appear bluntly and above board. He had no interest to play intrigue game, and those who dared to offend him would just be eliminated easily. His goal in that world was simply to get stronger and stronger. He had the time to play around with various tricks. Thanks to this, he was extremely famous and almost no one didn't know his name. It had some benefit because he could easily find the other returnee who came to that world and returned. But at the same time, he was lacking in some basic knowledge about life. After all, he never had to worry about food and drinks aside from the time when he went to the wilderness for training and exploration. Continent X. Ria repeated and nodded with a complicated expression. Continent X is a continent consisted of countless small islands, and it's hard for the officials there to manage all the islands at the same time. They could only focus on the bigger islands, and the smaller islands were partially ignored. After all, they had to focus their firepower. Now that the cracks only remained 2 in Continent X, perhaps they could restore other islands' facilities and so on to protect the people. Slowly but surely, they could also clean up the magic beasts and provided safe bases in these islands. But the 2 islands where Leon and Pena were located might be the real hell. Now they can focus, but Pena has basically killed every living creature who come to the island where he was staying, Samuel said with a dark face. Now that Pena had advanced to rank 7 and had such a large army under his command, Samuel knew very well that it wouldn't be easy for them to deal with him even if they wanted to. Even before then, Pena has always been cautious. He should have modified his own body so that it would not die so easily. All necromancer has this ability, and they were cautious enough to make sure that they would not die so easily. Just like their army undying. He killed the people? Ria was stunned. Every returnee has their own set of conduct. She and Samuel belonged to the type who would not hurt other people unless it was in self-defense. After all, they have no interest to kill other people around them. Dina was the type to spread her own way to others and took benefit in it as demonic magician. Murin was the type to ignore other people's problem and focused on himself and his own magic beasts. He didn't have interest to kill ordinary people, but he would also cause chaos and made the magic beasts went on a rampage. This has happened before. And now this Pena. He killed ordinary people? Yes. Samuel sighed and felt that the necromancer was really bold. He dared to make the entire world as his enemy, and he picked the most perfect moment to announce this to the entire world. With the second earthquake happening and the message that came to the mind of everyone who had advanced to rank 7. Who would want to deal with Pena right now? As long as Pena didn't try to leave his island, it was estimated that Continent X will ignore him and let him monopolize the crack that existed in his place. The crack is their source of resources, allowing them to grow stronger much faster than others. It's really troublesome. Do you want to deal with him? Rhea suddenly asked. Samuel arched his eyebrows. Do you have a way to kill a necromancer? Yes. Really? From what Samuel knew, killing a necromancer was not easy, and there were not many records of people doing it in that world. He thought that Rhea would only know the general methods. Yes. Rhea looked at Samuel and smiled faintly. It's not like I haven't killed one before. After she advanced to rank 7, there was a necromancer who made trouble and the association released mission to deal with him. Since Rhea had just advanced to rank 7 and the mission's reward was very tempting, she decided to go. Who made Runemaster's profession be such a big money spender? She could make money easily, but her money also flow out as quickly. The batch of money was not even hot in her hand before she had to hand it over to others. Just thinking about this made Rhea felt heartache. She also wanted to be a rich woman. Unfortunately, her profession made it impossible for her to do that. So any mission that could give her a large amount of money but was not that dangerous were taken by Rhea without hesitation. This necromancer was killing a lot of people, turning them into his own soldiers and thus making people didn't dare to come any closer. Most profession wouldn't be able to handle necromancer on their own, because they definitely couldn't last as long as the necromancer and would end up dying in his hand and be turned into his own army. No one wanted to experience such a thing. So not many profession dared to face against a necromancer. A Runemaster was one of the few professions who could face necromancer without losing their grounds. How did you kill him before? Samuel asked curiously. This time he was really tempted to know more about Rhea's story. He himself had faced off against necromancer, but killing them completely was still difficult. It's just a battle of who had more resources. Rhea scratched her cheek, somewhat embarrassed. I basically overwhelmed him with my own resources and then sealed his magic. Thus he became extremely weak and could be killed. Seal? Yes, there are also sealing runes, but this kind of runes are not very popular because it's complicated and took a long time. Rhea reached out her hand and drew in the air to form the runes. Soon there was a circle-like thing on the size of her palm. It didn't even take more than 10 seconds for her to draw the sealing runes. This is the simplest sealing runes that existed, and it can only seal the magic of a rank 1 magician. Rhea replied and then pushed her finger lightly in Samuel's direction. Considering his rank, this small seal wouldn't be of any effect on him. So she used this gesture to ask whether he wanted to try. Samuel looked at the seal with interest and then stretched his hand. Tep. As the seal was placed, Samuel sensed his mana seemed to be about to be trapped by something. But he released his own coercion and the feeling disappeared almost immediately. This kind of seal is useless for you, but I can make rank 7 sealing runes, Rhea replied with a cheerful smile. Samuel's expression froze. He looked at the front and seeing that there was a barrier there, he was relieved. He was sure that if words come out about this matter, Rhea might be targeted by other returnees, especially those magicians who relied on mana. Because if Rhea ever sealed their abilities, they would not be any different from ordinary people. Who could stand it? This is such a bug. Had to stop her. Don't worry. It's not that easy to do it. Rhea shook her head. Even if it's me, I have to draw the runes for more than a full minute before it can work, and for people at such high rank, you can't really expect them to let you draw runes quietly for such a long time while doing nothing. Samuel nodded. But there are still some methods that could delay them. That's what I did back then. I trapped the necromancer for a long time and then sealed his magic away. Without any magic, his undying army will turn into bones once again, and couldn't get up and I can kill him directly, Ria explained calmly. For people who had returned from that world, killing people were not uncommon. Many situations in that world could easily force people who used to be kind and law-abiding to become an outlaw and a murderer easily. In the battle for resources, how many people would use despicable means in order to achieve their result? Ria had seen too many and she had no interest to see more. Too many tragedies and dramas have been staged in front of her, making her numb and often wondered how people could persevere in such a complicated world. I see. Samuel nodded in understanding after hearing Ria's description. It doesn't seem to be that easy. This is just the Runemaster ways to deal with a necromancer. If I don't want to deal with them, I can always run away. My teleportation formation is easy to use, Ria replied with a bright smile. Her escape methods have been proven to be extremely useful and had duped many people in that world. For this matter, Ria is extremely proud of it. Samuel shook his head in amusement and then remembered something and asked, "How come I have never heard of your name before in that world?" He was famous, Peter was also famous, Murin was even more so. Dina is the princess of the demonic magician's lord, so she was also extremely famous. Ruth herself also made a name for herself and Samuel had heard about her. Pena was not very famous, but there were indeed not many necromancers in the areas where he located, so Samuel was not entirely sure. That world was so vast, even bigger than the Green Planet. He might have heard Pena's name, but maybe not too, because Samuel didn't really like those necromancer who were often hiding behind their army and hid their figures. Leon, Navi, Naylan, and Ami have all made their own names among the younger generation, and Samuel felt that their names were somewhat familiar. Of course, he had to go over and ask to confirm it if he wanted to be sure. But considering that they were from other continents, Samuel would not brazenly ask for information openly. If he did that, he was sure that they would kick him out without hesitation. Ria looked at Samuel with some hesitation and then said, "Maybe it's because I'm hiding my appearance?" If Ria had to say, she was not completely nameless in that world. But she didn't usually leave the Runemaster Association after she managed to join because there were so many resources and knowledge there. She didn't even need to go out and look for resources but could directly use her points to buy things. Of course, she will still come out from time to time, but she spent most of her time in the association. If she had to say, she had spent at least an entire year inside the Runemaster Association alone. That was basically a quarter of her entire time in that world. Considering that her first year was filled with her running around to get enough resources and gaining the chance to become a magician or a warrior, Ria felt that if she ever get famous, it was definitely not during her fledgling period. She was nothing more than a small figure who was unknown in the first 2 years. It was only later on when she gained some strength that she had become a bit more famous. But Ria had no interest to show off. She had already watched many novels where the protagonist was either provoking trouble or being provoked. Thankfully, she has no such aura and her journey was relatively smooth sailing, allowing her to become a rank 7 Runemaster after nearly 4 years of staying in that world. She lived well and didn't cause any dramas or provoke trouble during that period of time. As for the people whom she met, "Do you have a name that's recognized in public?" Samuel couldn't help but ask when he saw Ria's guilty expression. His mind was turning as he tried to remember the famous Runemasters in that era. Even though there were indeed people who specialized as Runemaster, many of them were still recognized as magicians. After all, most people would not bother to pay attention to the differences. There were only 3 mainstream of profession named magicians, magic warriors, and warriors. The other small professions were naturally incorporated into these 3 main professions. Ria looked at her robe and tilted her head. She had specifically asked the Martial Arts Association behind Peter to design this robe to be quite similar to what she usually wore in her previous life. But she didn't usually wear the hood because it was too troublesome. She had no interest to hide her appearance all day long either, so she didn't usually wear the hood. The robe was purple and blue in color, looking extremely good but not that eye-catching. At most, it could be called elegant. At least, that was how it is in Ria's opinion. She liked this color anyway. Maybe something like this? Ria pulled the hood from behind and wore it. After that, she took out a mask from her space and wore it. The mask was similar to that of white medical mask and would cover her lower half of her face. She raised her head and her blue eyes were staring straight in Samuel's direction. This was her usual appearance that she used when she was traveling in that world. Because many magicians often wore robes of various color when they were traveling, her appearance didn't exactly attract attention. As for the mask, this was because some of their magic spells were really embarrassing and they hadn't learned the formal ones. So when the children were still in the period of transition, they would cover up their faces. Otherwise, it would be a large scale of social deaths. Samuel looked at Rhea with a troubled look. There were too many other magicians who dressed similarly with Rhea, and he couldn't even remember whether he had seen someone like her before or not. This made him feel troubled. He couldn't remember when he had seen her before. "Are you trying to remember if you have seen me before?" Rhea was amused when she saw Samuel's appearance. "Yes. Don't bother. We have never met face to face in that world." Her status and Samuel's status was vastly different, making it near impossible for her to approach him blatantly back then. And Rhea had no intention of contacting Samuel in that world. Well, she didn't even recognize him. Forgive her, but Samuel really looked very different when he was in that world. Rhea was not that close to Samuel before the end of the world started, and the two has more interaction together. All right, Samuel could only nod. In terms of recognizing others, Rhea should be able to know him better than him recognizing Rhea. After all, he was indeed quite famous, and if Rhea had met him, she should remember. But perhaps we passed by each other? There are various magic disguise technique in that world, Rhea said in tentative tone. Disguise magic? Samuel thought for a moment before saying, "It's light elemental magic, and only some people with special affinity with illusion can learn it. I don't have light element and I can't disguise myself."